Welcome to another edition of Plugin Police. Today we're going to have a look at music production in Linux, in the free operating system Linux. There's several ways you can go to start producing and being creative in Linux. Me myself, I started on Windows. I've been many years away from Windows than I was on Linux. And the program I used the most was, the operating system I used the most was Ubuntu Studio. That's the one I have used the most. It's because I've done already several times also installing like a Debian or any other Linux distro, and then just install all the music software on top of it. It works very well also, Debian being very stable operating system. But the best results I always had with Ubuntu Studio, because Ubuntu Studio is, first it has everything you need for audio, photo and video productions already installed within the OS, so you don't need to install extra things. You get everything out of the box basically. And then also it's because Ubuntu Studio is it has a very special kernel, which it's a low latency kernel that they have specifically designed for this, to have very low latency in audio production. So that is why I really recommend Ubuntu Studio. It's a free operating system. It's extremely stable. It's one of also the most stable ones, because the problem is with other Linuxes, if you start installing stuff on top of it, then you're going to deal with dependencies, and you can also break stuff in Linux. That's actually quite easy to do, especially when you yourself pulling in repositories and installing dependencies on top of things. You can break stuff. So that's why, as one solution out of a box where you have everything you need, and then you can still install some third-party things if you need them, but you have everything you need for music production in one package, and that is Ubuntu Studio, the official studio version of Ubuntu for creative people, they call this. So you can do record, mix, master, raster, vector, 3D modeling, animate, compose and edit, and photography, and you have literally all the good open source programs that you need for both audio, video, and image manipulation are already included. So there you go. Very nice operating system. Very stable. It's based on Debian also. It's based on a normal Ubuntu version, which is of course based on Debian. So very stable, and I've worked with this for many years, and I had very good results with it. What you get is included is everything from Ardour to Mix to LMMS. You get the GIMP shop, of course. You get Blender. You get several video editing programs, and then there's a couple of them that are not pre-installed, or maybe they're now already in the latest version. I haven't used it for a couple of months, but you have yourself, many times you have to still install OBS, but that's about it, you know. For the rest you have everything you need, so I can highly recommend. Extra programs you need, you can just find it in the software store, or just sudo apt get install, and then see if it pops up. If it doesn't, go to the website of the program you need and install not the dependencies, but install the how do you call that? The repository. Sometimes you can't find a program in sudo apt-get or in the Ubuntu store, in the software store, and then you can just look for how do you call that? Repositories, and many times when you download the program, then they're sending a little thing of sudo apt install repository, and then sudo apt install the program you're looking for. So there you go, you know, it's just something you have to get a little bit used to. Installing things in Linux is a little bit different, but very stable. We have here the Jammy Jelly. It's 22.0 4.3. It's already out for some time. This is Plasma by KDE, and then there's the version 23.10. That is Mantic Minotaur. Never pay attention to the names of the distributions. They have always crazy code names, very strange code names always. I don't know where this is based upon, but must be also based on KDE Plasma. So there you go. let me see if I can see here what's on the 23.3 release. Lunar Lobster, here is what I mean with the code names they give. This one has already reached end of life. Because this is short term, always pay attention to that. Install always the LTS, the long term service, because you have also the short term versions. Let me see, I think it's all just made all based now on KDE Plasma. So I don't even think there's so many other desktops. Of course, you deal with Linux. You can always change the desktop. So this is, for example, a KDE Plasma, but you can just yourself install another desktop environment like XFCE or how do you call that? Can change it to all sorts of other kinds of desktop environments that are available. Is it recommended to do? Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. So it's also a little bit trying out. For example, if you grab a normal Ubuntu KDE Plasma and then you install the XFC on it, you can have that it works well. You can have that it doesn't work so well because you are, in one way or the other, you're changing a part of the desktop environment, and sometimes that can break stuff. So, but there you go. It's always possible to change the desktop environment, so you don't like the way the start menu works or whatever. Then you can go always to another kind of desktop environment. So, but there you go. I can highly recommend Ubuntu Studio. So you got the audio stuff over here. Then you got. So this is everything you have in here. You have Ardour in here, Carla, sequences and synthesizers, virtual amps, audio programming, and a hell of a lot more. There's here just a little bit here mentioned. And then we have graphics. So for graphics with Krita, Blender, Inkscape, GIMP of course. That's the Photoshop free open source version of Photoshop. Pico, Pixar, there are some programs already here that I don't even know yet. And let's see what we have here still in video, if they have already... photography we have still. Digitem, Darktable of course, really good photograph manipulation program. And then we have in videos, we have Canon Live. OBS Studio is already included now, so a couple of months ago I still need to download this separate on top of the Ubuntu Studio installation, but it's now already included in it. FFmpeg and then a hell of a lot more programs. One of the most future-rich programs, one of the operating systems that you install and you have even much more than you really need, and that's why I think it's such a good starting point, and also because it's a low latency kernel operating system, so you can in other if you use other Linuxes and you start installing audio programs on top of it, you can start dealing really with latency issues. So that's why I recommend also Ubuntu Studio, and then you can yourself change the desktop environment from KDE Plasma to something else, to XFCE or Manjaro or whatever. You have so many different desktop environments. You have how do you call that? Linux Mint environment. So there's you can go so many ways. There's so many different desktop environments. So but there you go. This is what I really recommend for people who want to do audio production in Linux. And also I recommend to stay with the default things as much as you can and try not to install too many how do you call that, repositories and dependencies and things like that. If you start messing around a lot with that, you really need to know what you're doing, because you can completely bork the system. You can trash the system. So I recommend keeping it a little bit more default. So just go to your terminal and go sudo apt install, and hopefully it's there already in the software center in the repository. And if you want something from a website or something, then look for the repository. Add that sudo apt install repository, and then give the link to the repository, and then after that again run the terminal and do sudo apt install and the program that you're trying to install, and try to do the things like that. Don't go unpacking zipped files and start doing things like that, because you're not going to have a great time in Linux unless you know what you're doing and you have already many years experiences with producing music in Linux or to work in Linux in general. So there you go. Be careful with the terminal, because as quick as you can install things and fix things, you can also break things in the terminal. In Linux is not like in Windows, where you cannot really damage the actual operating system. Most of the times in Linux you can very easily damage the operating system if you don't know how to use the command line well, so the terminal. So there you go. Until the next time, this is my recommendation, Ubuntu Studio. And a small disclaimer still, if you go for third-party plugins, make sure they're Linux compatible, or choose a DAW that's already within Ubuntu Studio that has several. Look then really for plugins that are really Linux compatible, because starting to run third-party plugins in Wine, you're gonna have a bad time. So don't do that. Use operating system like, for example, Traction Waveform is Linux compatible, and use the plugins from there. And then if you want to still use third-party plugins, make sure they're Linux compatible. So, but there you go. Until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.